and doing that as well on YouTube too. So at Sports Guy Chris, Scorum, YouTube, Instagram, where you can find me with my content. You're right. I've got a pretty regularly blog going there on Scorum as well. And then I'm hooked up with Solo Cup Sports as well through Instagram, posting for him as well. So. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I started recording before you said all that, so we got the intro out of the way.
Awesome, man.
Welcome to the Goonery.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Absolutely.
This is Sports Guy Chris, aka Chris Elger Sma.
Yes.
A up and coming sports writer.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Right on. Well, saw you were posting some shit. We were originally gonna talk March Madness, and then
right
March Madness happened.
Yes, right, yeah.
And here we are. We got the NFL draft eve right now. We're gonna just chat since it's really the only thing in sports going on in sports right now.
Right. Yes. Finally something to give us to dissect and debate and all that good stuff again.
Yeah, it's definitely been debate season since sports went out. I caught myself watching an old Masters during Easter weekend, which was actually quite enjoyable. But there hasn't been much. I think tried to do the WrestleMania, and that was a little hit and miss at times.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. I hear you. Yep.
But nonetheless, I think people want to hear us jump into the NFL draft and what to expect.
Sure.
And I guess we should just start with pick number 1.
Sure. Yeah. As much as, for one of my mock drafts, I entertained the notion of Miami trading up to grab Joe Burrow. I think Cincinnati will stay put and go ahead and draft him. It makes the most sense. Obviously he's the Ohio native. We all pretty well know the narrative by now on him and everything. So, I mean, to me, Burrow's the top prospect. It's one of those, like Andrew Luck was a few years back, Elway way back in the day. It's like that's the number 1 pick. So, I guess if the Bengals are offered a haul and want to go for it, I couldn't blame them. But it seems to me that's the obvious pick. Go ahead and take your home state guy and, hope he can come in and turn him around there. It's been a lot of mediocrity. And even when they were, quote, contending a few years ago, they didn't really contend for much. So, go ahead and draft this guy. I think it's I don't want to say a sure bet, but, maybe the closest thing in this draft anyway. So.
Oh, man, a lot to unpack there. First of all, why don't you think he's a sure bet?
Well, I guess the only knock is there's been a few other guys labeled that before, just going off of history. Me personally, I'll be honest, I love Burrow. I thought he turned in the greatest season from a quarterback standpoint in the history of college football this past year. So I'm very high on Burrow. Watching that national title game and how they just completely tore apart a
he looked like he was like so much older than everyone else.
Yeah,
like,
it
just
looked right. Yeah.
Just bigger than everyone else.
I agree. It looked like, like Joe Montana from the Niners, was out there playing college football, in the middle. I mean, it really did. I agree with it. He looked like he was just head and shoulders above everybody else on that field. So, I do love Burrow. I think the Bengals should probably just go ahead and pick him.
Yeah, I agree. Do you foresee any weird scenario where the Bengals don't pick him or he doesn't go to the Bengals?
The only scenario I could see, and somebody floated this, it was about a week and a half ago, and it got a little traction, then it kind of got lost, I've noticed in a lot of these mock drafts. But the only scenario I could see is if Miami, for some reason, went gung-ho and said, here's all 3 of our first-round picks to move up to take Burrow because we really love him. In that case, I heard that kind of floated, and I thought, all right, if I'm the Bengals, I have so many holes I have to address and needs. I could address quite a few there. You could get your offensive lineman, you could get that D lineman to build around with a guy like Derek Brown, with that 5 pick or so on. But and even your quarterback maybe later on in the first round. So that would be the only scenario I could see. And even in that scenario, even for the 3 first rounders, I don't know. I don't know if Cincinnati would do it or not. It depends how much, they love Burrow compared to, I guess, the other guys. That would be the one scenario that I've come across or come up with that I could see Cincinnati not taking him or moving out of that spot.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be more of a he wouldn't want to go there than a Cincinnati not picking him situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that always could be, right? I mean, there was some grumblings going on, a little while ago in that regard. It sounded like he wasn't all that excited about being drafted by the Bengals. Can't blame him. So
Well,
maybe a
right,
little
if you're
bit.
not trying to win.
Right. Well, yeah. Right. So I agree with you. I could see maybe that scenario happening as well. So you never know. I guess maybe he flexes his way, pushes his way out, kind of a la Eli all those years ago. So
Did Eli retire officially?
he officially retired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was yeah, okay. So, interesting on the first draft after Eli, you might see another scenario.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, all right. Enough Joe Burrow talk. The pick number 2, that seems like it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Chase Young. I'm along with everybody else. The best defensive player available. Ron Rivera being a defensive guy, it just makes all the sense in the world, especially with them. Given the draft pick over to Carolina to bring Kyle Allen up to, compete with Haskins there for the quarterback job. It doesn't really make sense to take a quarterback for them, but Young makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, yeah, he should be very explosive, right? Wasn't he like even more explosive than Bosa?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I'm a big Badger fan, and he single-handedly ripped us apart when we met during the regular season there in Columbus. So, he got my Badgers for 4 sacks and kind of blew us
You're
up pretty bad. So,
you're a Bucky the Badgers guy?
yeah, Bucky a Badger guy. Yes, yes.
All right. Where are you from?
I'm from Wisconsin originally. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
from
what part?
like the south central part of the state, small town, about 40 minutes north of Madison. So, kind of down
Okay.
in that neck of the woods. Yeah,
Yeah,
little town
I'm
called
from
Gordon.
the Chi-Town, north of Chi-Town area.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, yeah. We
All right.
share a border.
Nice. Yep. Yep.
Good stuff. Okay. And then what do you think happens? Is it the Lions third?
Lions are at 3. I'd been pretty firm where I thought that they would take an offensive lineman. I heard some things the last couple of days where I could actually see them trading back a little bit in that spot because either guy, the guy I had targeted was Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle from Georgia. I've got him a little higher up the list than some other folks. Or Jeff Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State, is who I'm seeing penciled in this
Yeah,
spot
I've seen
quite a
that.
bit. So I mean, it makes sense. They lost their best cornerback. They definitely lost some players on defense that they need to replace. So, to go ahead and pick him up would make a lot of sense. That being said, I think they can trade out of that spot and still be able to get Okudah or whichever offensive lineman they might want to get. I could see the Dolphins being aggressive, going up here if they really like Tua, they really like Justin, Herbert, or the Chargers. Actually, I heard some today. I don't know if I heard on the radio earlier. I don't know how serious it could be, but the Chargers maybe making the leap up there to grab Tua. The argument, of course, was okay. We're moving in a new stadium. We can't even sell out a soccer stadium at this point. We are going to be sharing the stadium with the Rams. We got to make a move here to get a new face of the franchise. And I mean, why not? Throw an extra pick, move up, grab Tua, and you've got Tyrod Taylor in place. I mean, he can step in and start. Obviously, not your long-term plan, but if Tua's got any lingering health or injury concerns, you can let Tyrod start the season, and he'll probably win you some football games too, and then kind of ease Tua in. So I could actually see that happening. I still think Detroit would be able to get Okudah at number 6 if they went ahead and traded back. So I have a feeling they might. We'll see what happens. But.
Yeah, there seems to be a big debate between the Chargers and the Dolphins, and is it Justin Herbert and Tua?
Yeah. Yep. You're right. Big debate going. I mean, a few weeks ago, I would have said firmly Tua is going to go to the Dolphins, and I think Herbert's going to go to the Chargers at 6. But with all, of course, the uncertainty with everything going on right now, just the fact that these teams can't actually see these guys in person and go through the workouts and talk to them, in person. I mean, you could do the Skype and all and the video chat, but it's not quite the same. They're not quite going through their typical process. So now I'm not really so sure, but you never know here.
I'm gonna build off that comment. I feel like drafts get so fucked up from these GMs that this year we'll actually see a more like straightforward, reasonable draft just based off of what looks good on paper rather than these like gut feelings about players and shit.
I think you're right? I mean, with that, you can take kind of all this hogwash and 17 interviews and, how many questions did they get right on a test that you're never going to have them take again anyway. So does it really matter in the end, So I think you're right. Now it's almost like in this draft, it seems more like the GMs are just going to be like, all right, this guy seems like he's definitely the best player available. Maybe we should just draft him instead of, stretching for this guy that we fell in love with in interview number 51 or whatever. So good points. I agree with you.
Yeah. I'm dying to know, though, who's going to have the better career, Justin Herbert or Tua?
Oof, that is a great question, right? I mean, my gut is saying Tua. Again, I suppose it could depend, which scenario they go to and all of those things. I think a better fit for Tua might be the Chargers just because they do have Tyrod Taylor there and he might be able to sit a little bit longer. I think they have a more talented offense in place already there. So you're probably, I think, more set up to succeed right away going there. That being said, the Dolphins, certainly upgraded their defense. And with no Tom Brady in that division, I mean, who knows? Now the AFC East is open for the first time in, 20 years. So kind of tough to say. My gut is telling me Tua just because I think he seems to have more of the it factor. I mean, I like Herbert a lot. He's one of those guys who seems to do everything pretty good but doesn't quite all put it together in a flashy package in any one game. Like one game he'll be super athletic but not necessarily throw the ball particularly well. The next game he'll drop some dimes in there and you're like, wow, look at this guy's arm. And then the mobility or his ability in the pocket isn't quite there. So it's like I'd like to see him just put it all together. I guess that's maybe the one knock on Herbert, but we'll see. I don't know. My gut's telling me Tua, but, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I would I'd bet on Tua to have the more successful career. Those Alabama guys just never pan out at the quarterback position.
Well, that's true, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
I think the same goes for the Oregon quarterbacks too, right? So
yeah, actually, that's another good point. Right?
I feel like
back in the day, Mariota recently. Yeah, that's another good point. So yeah, the track record's not real good in recent history for quarterbacks coming out of either of those schools. Good point.
Are there any quarterbacks after Burrow and those guys, the big three, if you will, that you like in this draft?
Well, I know a lot of people are kind of enamored with Jordan Love. I think Love's an interesting prospect. I'm not quite as in love with him as some other folks are. I'm really intrigued by Hurts, to be honest with you. Jalen Hurts, a guy that has won a lot in college. Went to two, between Alabama and Oklahoma, two different systems, was highly successful in both of them. And we look at the recent string of guys coming out of Oklahoma, they've been pretty successful. Jury's definitely still out on Baker Mayfield, but the return was pretty good on Kyler Murray last year, right away. And I think, I don't know, I thought the Cardinals weren't going to be much at all, especially bringing Kingsbury in there. I thought it was just going to be a gimmick college offense that wouldn't work, but a lot better. So I'm interested to see about Hurts, and then I think he's had a lot more experience in those last two guys as well coming out. So
yeah, I caught a few of his games last college season, and he just seemed like he has the it factor.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You know, to me, Hurts seems like he's got the it factor. And I mean, obviously the ability to make plays with his legs, you know,
Just his ability to, if he wants to throw a pass, score,
I,
make
yeah,
make a big play, like it just seems automatic for that guy.
yeah, I agree. I agree. He was able to do it in a lot of different ways for sure. Good points. Yeah.
Um, However, I don't know. Is he able to be like a NFL quarterback? You know, I feel like he might be one of those guys that's just like really gifted from just physical talent, but
Yeah,
also like just doesn't put it together at the quarterback level.
I agree, you know, to an extent. I will say I think whoever takes Hurts kind of needs to be willing to do what Baltimore has done. You know, they brought in Greg Roman. Roman was the guy who built the offense for Colin Kaepernick. He came in, built an offense for Lamar Jackson and his skill set. And then they went out and got some players that fit around him as well. So whatever team I think drafts Hurts, if they want to be successful, is going to kind of have to do that similar thing. They're going to kind of have to mold their offense to be a little bit more maybe of a college offense with those RPOs and things to kind of, you know, mold it more around his skill set and then kind of bring in some other players that fit that, you know, particular scheme. So if not, I mean, I can't see him running like a Patriots type of offense, in my opinion, and seeing him really pan out. So, you know,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Do you have a projection in your mock where he goes?
I've got him going in the second round. I think he's going to go in the second round, somewhere there in the middle of the round. I wouldn't be surprised actually if a team like the Raiders landed him. Believe it or not, I think that would be a pretty good fit. You
The
know,
only team
again,
to have
another
four quarterbacks on a roster to start the
right, yeah,
season.
yeah. You know, I mean, they seem like they don't care how many they throw on there. You know, right, and see what happens. So, but they don't seem too committed to Derek Carr one way or the other. I mean, I opening up competition for him. So I could see that. The Patriots possibly at the end of the second round if he's still there, even though I just said I don't think he would fit their offense. I could see them possibly taking, you know, a chance on him just because he's going to be probably the best quarterback prospect available in that particular spot. So
What about
um,
Jake Fromm?
Jake Fromm, yeah, you know, Fromm could be a good fit for New England, you know, as well. You know, coming from Georgia, they played a little bit more of a, I don't want to say conservative, but they certainly ran the ball a lot more. It wasn't very much a spread offense down there. You didn't see a lot of 3 or 4 wide receiver sets. So, you know, from I think a transition standpoint, Fromm makes sense with the Patriots. Actually, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, for those Georgia Bulldogs, you know, I don't have, you know, the biggest insight into, you know, these players by all means, but just from what I've seen and from what I've heard, uh, he seems like he could be a sleeper.
Yeah, and he's got a ton of experience. You know, you talk about looking to get a guy that's played in some big games and has been battle tested. I mean, he's played now against a three-year starter going against Alabama every year and LSU and Florida and these defenses he's had to
Yeah.
play in them. You know, being in a playoff a couple years ago, SEC title game. So he's played in some big time games. So I think that would bode well as well.
Those Bulldogs can ball.
Yeah, yeah, they can. Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
they.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. It feels like a pretty big it seems a little deeper at quarterback this year than usual, or maybe it's just wishful thinking from these desperate teams.
Right, yeah, maybe a little bit of that, but it seems like there's a good solid, you know, 6, 7 guys out there this year that are
Yeah,
really intriguing that actually could be legitimate, maybe, you know, starters in this league. So, and certainly I think you know, the top 3 that we discussed, you know, the ceiling seems very high for those guys and certainly the expectations. So, but yeah, I think we got a good solid 6 or 7 QBs actually in this draft,
yeah,
especially compared to recent years.
yeah, and I think there's like a Washington quarterback Eason that we didn't
Eason,
show
yeah,
any love
Eason.
to, and I
Yep.
still don't want to. Those guys just don't pan out in the NFL. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Also, go Cougs. Uh, okay, so I do want to talk about the Patriots real quick, just because
Yeah,
it's buzzing in everyone's news feed.
sure.
Wow. Brady, Gronk, Evans, Godwin on Tampa Bay. That
Yeah,
happened pretty
yes.
quickly.
That did happen pretty quickly. Did not see that coming, even right up to the end, I still didn't think Tom was going to go to Tampa. I just didn't see it, but obviously it happened. And then for Gronk to come out of retirement, go down there as well. I mean, oh my goodness.
Seems like
And
a
I've heard,
slap in the face to the Patriots organization at this
right?
point.
Yeah. And then, and it's coming out, they had it planned. They've been talking about it for a year and a
Right,
half,
yeah,
all
they're
this
in
other stuff.
cahoots
Like, oh,
and
wow. Big, like you said, a big smack in the face to the Patriots there. But, kind of makes sense. Everybody was saying last year, oh, let's get Gronk out for the playoff run. And I think Tom called him up and told him, hey, dude, we're not good enough this year. I don't have any other weapons. Even if you come back, I've got nobody else to throw to. There's no way we're going to beat Baltimore or Kansas City this year. Let's wait till next year. Wait till, I get the hell out of here and come team up with me down in Tampa. And it seems like that's what they went ahead and did. But
holy shit. Well, there's big shoes to fill in the Patriots.
yes, there is. Yep.
Who do you slot into the starter for the 2020 season?
Well, right now, I guess I would slide Stidham in there. You've got Hoyer, so I think they'll compete. And, Hoyer's been there before. He's a proven backup in the league. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he played some games, but it seems like he's kind of been brought in to push Stidham to be the reliable backup guy. Now, I'm with a lot of people. I expect him to take a quarterback somewhere in this draft. I'm not sure if they'll do it in the first round or the second round like we talked about, but I think they're going to nab one of these guys. I guess Stidham right now, I think is the guy that they'll start with, but I don't know if he'll be the starter by the end of the season.
Okay. Yeah, no, appreciate you. That was my other question is, who's going to, if he doesn't
Yeah.
pan out, like who's going to replace
I
him?
could I could see a transitional thing where maybe Hoyer comes in there to kind of just take over and maybe right the ship a little
I
bit.
could see, yeah.
Get over to whatever rookie they end up drafting. Give them some time to get groomed a little bit. So
Yeah, I could see it being they could go so many different ways. Aren't they like known for getting quarterbacks that have, or not just quarterbacks, just players who are high draft picks. They don't work out for a team for whatever reason, and then, oh, come on over to the Patriots organization, and then they get righted and end up having successful careers until they want to be paid, and then they get sent packing. Your services are no longer needed here.
yeah,
For that kind of money.
and you're right. You hit the nail right on the head. You're definitely right. Under Belichick here, the last 20 years, that's kind of what they've been known for too. Maybe these guys didn't pan out where they originally were, or even had some issues or what have you. They bring them into New England, somehow get them on the straight and narrow, and all of a sudden these guys are having career years, making Pro Bowls, and then like you said. And then New England always has to knack to, well, I know you're going to want to get paid again, so we're either going to cut you or trade you right before that happens. So, but they seem to have a knack. You're right with doing that. So, it's going to be really interesting. You made a good point. They could go any number of directions at that quarterback position. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really intrigued to see what they do with that first round pick because I think they're going to have options there. So.
Yeah, they'll probably trade it.
Right, and then that's it. Right, then they'll do the least exciting but most exciting thing ever, and they'll just trade it back and trade out of the first round into the second round. Because Belichick loves to do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they go after a Hurts or a Fromm. It'll be interesting, if the people on that actual roster pan out. I could see Hoyer having a Matt Castle type of year with them.
I can see that too. Yep.
In one of those guys too, what's Cam Newton doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Cam is apparently, just working out and being angry about his, inability to get an interview or have the chance, to work out for teams in person. So I think he's just, like the rest of us, waiting for everything to kind of calm down so he can actually get to the point where he can meet with teams in person and actually show them, hey, I'm good physically, I'm good, I'm ready. I can get on the field and play and win some football games again. So, we'll have to see. It's crazy that he's still just out there. I mean, from what I can tell, he's healthy, he's good to go. Of course, it's from his own videos, but a guy that's won a lot in this league and isn't too far removed from being an MVP. I would expect him to land somewhere at some point. Although Washington was the team I thought he was going to go to, and then they went ahead and traded for Kyle Allen, the guy that took his spot last year in Carolina. So I'm not sure where he's going to end up. He might have to swallow the ego, pride and take a backup role, believe it or not, as hard as that is to say, as it is right now. There's not too many
Hmm.
starting gigs out there that I can find for him at the moment.
Yeah, I could see him figuring things out in New England again, just from a sheer physical specimen standpoint. They
Yep.
really like those advantages in the X's and O's like that.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's a good fit. And it'll be, again, one of the other interesting things to watch. If New England doesn't take a quarterback in the first or second or third round, depending who's out there, then I'm more inclined to think they're going to make a play for Cam, or they've got something going on, in the back of their mind where they're thinking, hey, after all the dust settles, we're going to kick the tires on Cam and bring him in as well. So, I
What
mean,
about Jameis too?
yeah, Jameis, right? Former,
What a slap in the face if they fixed
right,
Jameis's pick problem and
right.
went on to a AFC championship or better with
Right.
Jameis.
That would be something, right? Watch the old flipperoo and then New England just keeps it rolling right along, like you said, like right on to the AFC title game again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he had the LASIK surgery, so I mean, if that helps with interceptions, I guess we'll see. But boy, yeah, that would be something. I would actually like to see that. I
That
hope they
would
bring him in
be,
just to see to see that.
yeah. I feel like the NFL is getting a little wild too, where something like
I
that might
agree.
even happen.
I could see it. I could see it. Yep.
The last shot I'll take is when Mitch Trubisky doesn't pan out this year for the Bears, and that goes south quickly. I could see them gobbling up him instead of extending the fifth-year option and figuring out his gameplay since he's football young and probably just needs better leadership.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that as well. When we kind of first went in the free agency or right before, I thought Chicago would be one of the teams that would target Cam. I thought that would be a good fit physicality wise. It seems like they're, like you pointed out, not sold on Mitch, although I think you make a good point from the leadership standpoint. I think he's been set up to fail, unfortunately. I mean, the Bears had a good team. They had a good, division winning team a couple years ago. For me personally, I didn't understand the Jordan Howard trade before last year. I know Howard didn't have to do much for the Eagles, but it kind of took away some of the identity, your big physical run, the ball team. And he was able to kind of pass after that secondly. They traded him away. They brought in some other backs, but the guys weren't. I mean, Montgomery was okay. They weren't quite, I think, what they were hoping to get out of those guys. And it seems like they just kind of lost their identity last year. And now they're like, do we believe in Mitch? I don't know. I don't know if we do or not anymore, which,
Yeah.
it's too bad. So I know they went down and they grabbed Foles kind of as a backup plan. But, if they were, I mean, I thought Cam would be a good fit, physicality wise, big
Yeah.
guy. I mean, I thought maybe they would intrigue that. So, but I'm with you. I don't think Mitch is going to be the starter by the end of the year. It just seems like,
Yeah, just everything's going against it. There's too much, the world silly ways or whatever. But
yeah,
he will benefit from a easier schedule.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Great point. Yes, great point.
he would benefit from a tight end if they can find one in free
Yes.
agency.
Yes, another good point.
Um, you know, and he would benefit from a kicker, competent kicker.
Absolutely. That's another thing, right? When you have to move the team down the field and still,
Yeah,
have to, be the kicker as well when you're the quarterback. That's no
yeah,
good. Yeah, good point, right? I mean, I think that's one of those undervalued things. You look around and a lot of times some quarterbacks that end up having pretty good years, you look at who they have for kickers and they're usually pretty solid, right? I mean,
well,
a
yeah,
lot of times,
there's
it
some
happens.
solid kickers and there's some questionable kickers, and you
Yep.
wonder how there's not 32 guys in the 7 billion people world we live in that can just kick automatic field goals.
I know, right? I agree. I agree, right? Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
man.
but yeah, digress. We've talked a lot about quarterbacks. Let's talk about those receivers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
fucking the receivers class looks fucking stacked this year, and
Absolutely.
it was absolutely stacked last season. I get chills thinking about drafting fantasy receivers this year.
Oh, I know, right, man? I totally agree. I'm very high on this year's draft. Of course, growing up in Wisconsin, I'm a Packers
Are
guy.
you a Packers guy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
I
a
knew
Packers.
it. I knew it.
Uh,
Clearly, I'm a Bears guy.
of course, right? Yep.
But hey, look at us getting along on the
Yeah,
Goonery.
I know, right? Who would have thought, right? I'm hoping they go wide receiver. I'm thinking that's what they're going to go with, right? I mean,
Packers?
yeah, they gotta get somebody else besides Devontae Adams. We moved on from Geronimo Allison, which was fine because he took a
Oh,
step. Valdez Scantling took a step back, and that's all you really have. Yeah, Alan Lazard came off the practice squad and was great, but I mean, we're not depending on him to be a make or break number two wideout. So I hope they take advantage of one of these talented wide receivers. One of these guys is going to be available. I'm hoping Justin Jefferson, maybe that might be wishful thinking. He might go a little bit higher, but I would take Brandon Ayuk. If I might be butchering his name, from Arizona State. I like him a lot too. Mims from Baylor will probably be there. I'm not
hey.
as on him, but
Yeah, we only get names correct when, the players are actually doing something in the league right
right,
now.
yeah, I like it.
It's a
Yes,
big inside joke when as soon as the player starts to shift away from, their peak,
yeah,
their prime, all of a sudden the GM, the coach starts to forget their first name.
yeah,
We've called Tom Brady Tim Brady a few times when he's looked a little weak.
weak, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love it, man. Yeah, but I love the guys at the top too. I mean, Jerry Judy, C.D. Lamb, and Henry Ruggs, I think are all going to be guys that can step in right away next year and make a difference for somebody out on the field. So it's going to be
yeah,
interesting to see where these guys end up. I'm really high on these receivers. Great point, man. Great draft for receivers. I think we could see 6 or 7 go in the first round, actually.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Two things to unpack from that. One, there's two Alabama receivers. One is clearly ranked ahead of the other, but it's not so clear in the mock drafts who gets picked first.
yeah, I tend to be, I like Judy. I know Ruggs really came on. His speed and some other factors have really impressed some. For me, Judy, his route running is so good. Like, he is already at like NFL ready, NFL 5, 6 year type of wide receiver with his route running. And when I tend to kind of look back at drafts and the guys that end up panning out versus the guys that don't, it tends to be the guys that are more NFL ready from a route running standpoint. I mean, you always look for that guy that's got the explosive it factor and all that kind of stuff, which I think Judy does have. Ruggs emerged last year. The Tua injury kind of, his numbers tapered off and he didn't quite have as spectacular season as everybody kind of thought he would. But that every down ability and then the crisp route running that he looks like an NFL veteran when he runs routes. I like that. To me, he's the more polished. I think Ruggs has the more of the big play, break the big play, playmaking ability as of right now. But so that's why I like Judy a little bit better. But I think that's also why Ruggs is in, like you said, in some mock drafts getting picked ahead of him, quite frequently. So I think that's why the disparity.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I feel like this year, going back to, our original point of it probably being a more straightforward draft than we're used to seeing.
Yes.
I feel like in the recent years it's got a little wonky, right? Like,
Yeah.
or at least
I
the
agree.
Raiders make it that way.
Yeah. I agree. Raiders and the Browns, just what
Raiders
the
are
guys
so bad at
doing.
drafting.
Yeah, just terrible. Yeah.
Um, but cool story for them, moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
The other thing to unpack from that was shit. This is why I got to write shit down. I'm not used to this new quarantine studio. Okay, so we were talking about receivers and shit. It'll come to me. We'll just have to hold off on that thought for a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, it will. Okay, so with the draft, one of the other big stories, right? Not being in front of a live audience. I don't know. Do you think anyone will care?
At this point, no. I think we're also desperate to have some kind of an actual event that's not a replay from an NBA Finals from 10 years ago, or
Yeah.
The NFL Classic from 20 years ago, or whatever. We're always like, yeah, give us something that's like live and actually happening right now. So it'll probably be a little different without the crowd, but it'll just be like an old school draft, like back in the 80s and early 90s,
Right.
before they got the whole crowd going and everything. So
Yeah, like a fantasy draft, right?
yeah,
Like you make the selection and
yeah,
there's no crowd to pan to. There's no
right,
NFL
yeah,
fucking circus town,
right, yeah. Show the
whatever.
circus town outside with everybody trying to kick a 5-yard field goal and then
Yeah,
yeah,
everyone trying to, oh, I'm on camera.
yeah.
Yeah. Who would you say you think like has the best mock drafts, like analysis when it comes to ranking these prospects?
Ooh, all right. I mean, I tend, yeah, that's a great question, right? I tend to go with, Bleacher Report, not any necessarily one guy. I tend to like their mock drafts the best. Nothing against CBS Sportsline. They tend to be a little bit more wonky, in my opinion. Like we're just going to make a bunch of trades happen for the sake of making trades happen. I mean, it's fun to look at and read, but not every team is trying to make a trade in the draft, as much fun as it is to try and speculate about that. So to me, I thought, at least this year in particular, the guys over on Bleacher Report did a really good job. It's cliche, it's the big name guy, but Mel Kiper I tend to follow as well. I mean, the guy's been around since seemingly the first draft class back in 1930. Mel Kiper was there with the goofy glasses and hair, giving his rundown on him. So those
Yeah.
are the guys at least I've gone with this year in particular.
Yeah. Mel Kiper seems to be a straight shooter when it comes to, he doesn't have the bias,
Yes. Yep.
that the owners or GMs have when picking, it appears.
Right. Yep. Yep.
One of the things I forgot to mention earlier was when we were talking Packers and wide receivers, it made me remember that the Bears picked up Jimmy Graham.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh
Yes. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, I just wanted to display my disgust for that signing.
Yeah. All right. Good. I was wondering how Bears fans felt because I just didn't understand it. I mean, I was excited when we got him.
I get it if you're looking, 8 years ago.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Right. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I feel like the tight end position has evolved since Jimmy a little bit, and
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Oh, I remembered my receiver shit. Okay.
Awesome.
Always do. Always do. Okay. So why is it that teams that win the Super Bowl generally don't have like a number one wide receiver? So more so, you see these teams, the Falcons, they got Julio Jones. The Texans, well, they used to have, we'll talk about that in a second. Any of these like big play receivers, I feel like, when was the last one that won a Super Bowl? Like, I mean, Terrell Owens.
Oh, right. Good. And even T.O., right? I don't think did.
And he
Or
was
did
out
he?
of his prime at that point anyway.
Yeah, out of his prime anyway. I think you make an excellent point there, right? And which is why a couple years ago I was in the minority when the Giants traded Beckham. I thought it was a great trade for him.
Yeah.
I thought they needed to free up that cap space, and the guy just he was done in New York, right? He was becoming more of a kind of an off the field thing. So sometimes these receivers, and you make a good point, right? Julio Jones was the closest,
Yeah,
and I
I'll
mean,
pull up the winners, and this seems, yeah, just in case we're like missing a big one and people are screaming at us, all two listeners or whatever. But
right.
if they've
Right?
made it this
Yeah, no,
far, yeah, if you've made it this far, let us know.
good point. I mean, even you can look at Randy Moss never won one. So
Okay, would you count Tyreek Hill as an elite? I mean, from a number standpoint, maybe, but I feel like he's just one of those speedy guys that has had a lot of success.
I agree. I'd like to
Yeah,
see it a few more seasons yet. I guess. Yeah, I'm with you. To dynamic speed, but
but
maybe more
yeah, I
years.
wouldn't call him like your. I feel like Megatron is like your ideal like number one receiver, and like
I agree.
how close are you to Megatron? Like he's the standard.
Yep. Yep.
I feel like Tyreek Hill is kind of, from a physical standpoint, a little ways away from that, making him not a true number one. Number
I
one
agree.
for fantasy purposes when he's healthy,
Oh, right.
sure.
Yeah.
But okay. Just looking back at it, I should actually remember this. What the fuck? Oh my god. Sorry, the internet's fucking me over here trying to. Okay. Yeah, the Patriots won it in 2019. Like, they had a tight end. Kansas City, they had a tight end. The Eagles, they had a tight end.
Yep.
Patriots, tight end. Denver Broncos, tight end. So the tight end is the fucking G position to have.
Yeah, I agree. That seems to be the position in the league the last, certainly 10 years or so
Yeah.
for sure. That's really kind of helped to put the teams over the edge. So, I mean, if you took Kelsey off the Chiefs, I think that really screws them up more. I know Hill is a dynamic
Then you have
player,
the Bears.
but yeah, right. So good, good point. The tight end.
Yeah, the tight end is the super, like, quarterback tight end. It's like kind of like fantasy, right? Like there's only a few like elite ones that you might want to
Right.
draft and
Good
not
point.
just sleep on.
Yep.
But anyway, these are just Goonery analytics. You can't. But yeah, I mean, past that, Patriots again, of course. The Seahawks, the Ravens, the Giants. Maybe did the Giants have a? Yeah, they always have like a number one receiver for like 1 year, and then they go to shit.
Right.
That team has gone through so many number one receivers.
Right, dude. Yeah, Plaxico Burress was at the height of being the number one and shot himself in the
Yeah.
leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who was the salsa guy? Fucking Victor
Oh, Victor
Cruz.
Cruz. Yeah,
He
the
was the
sauce.
man, and then they had that other guy who was like good. I
Yeah.
can't think of his name, but he was kind of injury prone. He had a good season. Odell Beckham. You
Odell
name it.
Beckham, yeah.
You name it. They'll probably. Who do they draft number 4? If we go full circle here as we
I,
wind
I
down this podcast.
Sure. I think they're going to go O-line. I know Isaiah Simmons, the dynamic linebacker from Clemson, it will be an intriguing pick for him there, but it seems like they go O-line, especially taking the quarterback last year at number
Yeah.
6, taking Barkley the year before. Now get a guy that can help protect and block for these guys. I think they'll be able to address their defensive needs later on, but they're the top 3 or 4 offensive linemen in this draft, in my opinion, are like head and shoulders above the rest of the offensive linemen. So if they pass on an O lineman here, I think you're not going to get nearly the same caliber guy. Like if they go ahead and draft, I think they'll take Wills from Alabama. That's the guy I like to go here, Jedrick Wills. I heard Joe Judge, the new coach, mention about a week or so ago that he likes him. He likes his physicality and all that stuff. So I expect them to go offensive line here.
Yeah, the least sexiest pick you can make in the NFL draft.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But shit, man, the games are won in the trenches. Just look at New England.
Right, dude. Good point. Tom had his jersey clean all of those years, and it paid off. That was for sure. So That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate you coming on the Goonery.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I love being on. Had a great talk, dude. Great discussion. Can't wait for that draft tomorrow. We finally
we'll finally
live
see.
to look at.
For a few teams, it's exciting because there's only like 1 or 2 holes that you really need to fill to get competitive again.
Yep.
Some other teams, it's kind of more tedious process, but
right. Yeah, man, I hear you. Yeah, now for a few teams, they can go into it thinking, gosh, we only need, like you pointed out, right, that 1 or 2, that 1 or 2 holes we need to address, and then like we're ready to go, and then other teams, it's like, all right, well, we've got about 17 needs to take care of, so which one are we actually going to address, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Yeah, we made some predictions, most of them pretty bold.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see. They're
right?
recorded.
Heck
NFL Draft Eve, so we'll have to follow up after the dust settles this weekend.
Absolutely, right? See how we did, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Good times. Yeah, great talking with you. This is
Likewise.
Chris Elgersma, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
and if you want to plug your social one more time.
Oh, yeah, one more time. Instagram, Scorum, that's SCORUM. That's where you can find my regular blog going, and then I'm on YouTube as well, putting out some regular content. And again, it's at Sports Guy Chris. So thanks again. Appreciate being on.